everyone, it's Lori and welcome to the channel. So you just saw me going through a couple water drop images that I took recently, and I thought I would bring you along as I edited them. So we've had a lot of rain the past few weeks, and one day I just had enough, and as soon as there was a break in the rain, the sun started to peak. I ran outside with my camera. Now, a couple key learnings when you think about shooting water drops. So first, for this image, I was able to get a really sharp, nice water drop. I was using a 70 to 300 millimeter lens. I shoot on Fuji, and I love that lens. So in this instance, I was able to get a really good in focus shot. Now, with other images that I captured, the water drop was not as in focus as I'd like it to be. There's a couple reasons you may run into this. One, the camera had a very busy background and it just really was struggling with the focus. I flipped it to manual, but it's a heavy lens. I wasn't in quite an area where I could be super stable. And so even on manual focus, I wasn't able to get it as sharp as I'd like. So a couple tricks. Number one would be to focus on a subject that is pretty isolated so that your camera's autofocus will nail your focus. You can see with this flower, there wasn't a lot of distraction around the drop. The camera was able to nail focus. If you are going to need to use autofocus or manual focus, as I should have on this image, I would encourage you to be on a tripod or somewhere where you can really stable yourself. If I had been using just my short macro lens, I probably would have been able to get this a lot better. But again, I was far away trying to zoom in and manually focus. It just did not work. But I think I can save this image in editing. My third tip for you guys would be to definitely, if you find something beautiful, use it as an opportunity to focus stack your water drops. So as soon as I saw, this is a tiny hummingbird flower bloom. It is really tiny. And I saw these tiny drops. And so I did focus stack it, but I was not using a tripod. And I only did 2 focus points. So you can see a focus mainly in this top area. And then in this second image, you can see I got these bottom drops. But I don't like this image with the drops at the top. So what I thought we'd do together today is blend the two together. So I guess my tips would be, number one, shoot water drops when your background is not very busy so that your camera's autofocus works for you. Second, if you have to manually focus your lens, then be somewhere where you can really either sit or on a tripod and just work with that manual focus until you get it the way you want it. And lastly, focus stacking is a great way to get all the details in the water drops and to capture them on multiple petals. You definitely want to use a tripod if you can. If not, you could do the technique I have where I did just 2 shots and I'm going to combine them together in Photoshop. All right, so enough about all the tips. Let's get started editing together. I'm going to edit these 3 images for you, and I'm going to walk through the first 2 pretty quick, and then we'll get into the Photoshop merge. So let's jump in and get started. All right, this first image is going to be really easy to edit. I am here in Lightroom, the Creative Cloud version. It is identical to Lightroom Classic, just some of the locations of the editing tools maybe in a different place, but the techniques are the same. So the first thing I want to do is bring down the highlights. So this image, you can see the light was coming in. It's beautiful, but I think it was a little much, a little bit distracting. Second thing I want to do is address this stem and the edge of the flower because the highlights are so bright, I think it distracts your eye. So let's grab a linear gradient, and I'm just going to come up from this corner. If you watch my videos, you know how much I love a linear gradient. I think it works great. Just going to bring down those highlights and then bring down the exposure just a little bit. I want the light to be true, but I also want it to reflect the area around it. So I think that is already better. I'm going to bring down the whites too just a little bit. Okay, so there's before. You can see how harsh that is, and after. I think it looks much better. All right, so I do have a blemish right here. And so let's go ahead and see. There's something on my lens. If I can remove that, let's see if it works with just the regular remove tool. Ugh, it did not do a good job. I was afraid of that. I think this is one that I'm gonna have to take into Photoshop. We're not gonna do that together right now because we're focused on water drops. Okay, so the other cleanup that I would do really quick would just be this yellow spot. I don't want anything that's distracting from my water drop, which is the focus. So I'm just gonna do a little cleanup on these flowers. Just a little bit on these petals will go a long way to bring our focus and attention to the drop. Now this water drop really doesn't need a lot, but let's go ahead and let's go and add another mask. I'm going to do objects. I love the square object tool. I think it does a great job. We are going to select our water drop. It did perfect. And the number one thing that I like to do to enhance my water drops would be to add some dehaze. Now dehaze does darken, but in this instance, I'm okay with that. You could also try a little clarity. I'm not really sure that we need it with this one, but it's there. So this image was really pretty easy. The last thing I would do is come down and under the magenta color, I would lower that saturation. Actually, I lower the luminance. Let's go to saturation. I'd lower that just a little bit and I'd lower the red. And that's just personal preference. I do not like my magentas super bright. Okay, so before I export and finish this image, I am gonna take it into Photoshop and clean it up. But let's go ahead and move to our second image. Okay, so with this image, I really first and foremost loved all the curves and the lines and just kind of the wildness of it. So what I think I want to do with this one is actually convert it to black and white. And so I'm going to do that right off the bat. Now I'm going to darken the blacks and then I'm going to really brighten the whites. And I do think that I want to crop this image. So I'm going to get our water drop closer to that rule of thirds. And I think that's going to be perfect. Yeah, let's try that. I like that a lot. Now, this water drop is it's insignificant right now. So we want to bring a little bit of detail. So again, I'm going to grab my brush and not my brush. Sorry about that. We are going to do an object. Come in and draw that square right around there. And I'm going to zoom in for you guys. Let's see if our overlay captured it. Okay, it did a little too much. So this is where you're going to grab your subtract, your brush, and I'm going to make sure that my flow is high, but I do not need all the feathering. So I'm going to bring that down and I'm just going to go around. Oh, it's adding. I told it to subtract. Let's go ahead and try again. Got our brush. There we go. We're going to clean that up. Now it looks like it took off some, so let's go ahead and click Add, Brush. I'm going to make this really small, and I'm just going to brush around and make sure that we get the whole area. All right, I think that's got it. Yeah, I think we've got the whole thing. Let's try it and see what happens. Somehow my mask got all messed up. So what I want to do is come down and immediately do the dehaze. And I want to add some clarity. And for this guy, I want to go ahead and I am going to reduce the highlights a little bit, but open up the shadows because there is a shadow in there. And then I'm going to increase the exposure just a little bit. Now I can see a lot of noise, so I'm going to sharpen and I'm going to do noise reduction. So we're going to reduce the noise a little bit. I don't know that we need to add texture, but I am going to keep increasing that and increase the clarity. All right, and let's go back up darken our blacks in there to just kind of make that stand out, and maybe open up the whites. All right, so I'm going to pull back, and let's go back so you can see. I think when you look at it as a whole, this is going to be before, of course. And then if we go to our after image, it definitely looks different because it is in the black and white. So let's get that to shift back. My system is being really slow right now, you guys. So give it just a minute and we will get back to our after image. See if we can get back to our edits. There we go. So I think you can see a big difference. Now this would not be an image that I would probably print, but I do really like it. And it's a great reminder and lesson of really how to capture water drops, but there are things you can do to save it in post-processing. So I think it just enhanced it and made it look a lot better. All right, our last two are our focus stack images. So I've already pulled these into Photoshop, so let's jump over. And so I've got this first image where I just really got these drops in the bottom in focus, but I missed the top because I was focus stacking. So what I want to do is I've got the other image pulled up. So I am going to drag this one on top of our other image. Can get that to work. All right, let's just move it up and on top. There we go. Get that placed. And you can see that it's a different size. Everything's a little bit different with this image. So as soon as I'm finished, I'm going to highlight both and I'm going to go up to Edit, Auto Align. So I want to line these up even though they're different sizes. I was standing. Again, I did not use a tripod for this, so it's a little bit off, but I think we're going to be okay. So now that they're lined up, I am going to go to this top layer, which is the, let me show you again, the top layer has the focus right here. And so what I'm going to do is add my layer mask, and I'm actually going to invert it because I really don't want, I really just need to bring back the detail right here. So we're going to grab a soft round brush, flip it to white so that we can apply it and reveal what's underneath. I'm going to zoom in and this should be pretty easy. Let me make sure my opacity is all the way up. Always check your brushes. Okay, so that one looks really good. I even can get that water drop. Now this one may be a little challenging. I'm going to make my brush small. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now there's a little bit of a shading issue between the two images, whoops, which is very, very interesting. So I am going to lower this and I'm just going to come in with the brush and try to make sure it doesn't look like I did this effect. Does that make sense? So it's going to be a little bit of a tricky because for some reason the light moved. The colors are just a little bit different. I really want that one sharp. And that one. And then I'm just going to flip it and go right around the edge. I think that's got it pretty good. I'm not seeing too much of a difference with the naked eye. Pull back a little. And so while I don't have everything in focus, I do think having these top ones was really important to the image. And so at this point, I feel really good about this. I'm going to go ahead and make a stamped layer, Command, Option, Shift, and the letter E. And from here, I really don't know that there's much else that I'd want to do to this image. I could always do some things to the background, but I think it's pretty. And I think I would just save it. So this image is definitely a reminder to grab your tripod if you can, or to really stand still and move your focus point to each petal with all the water drops, which is what I definitely would have done had I had some more time. But overall, I'm happy with having that center and then having these other drops. I think it does tell a nice story, and it is a beautiful, sweet little flower bud image after a beautiful rainy day. So those are some 3 water drop edits. Really, I think a key is your shooting, and then it's all about bringing out the details in your water drop and enhancing your image to make sure that your water drop is the star of the show. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.